Hi everyone, the Watch Talk Trio is back. Today we've got some overlooked and underrated watches you've got to see. Come check it out. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all of our latest video content. All right, you guys, we've picked 3 really cool watches to showcase today, but before we do this, I've got to ask, what are you wearing? Ripley, do you want to kick this off?
Palm dial. Most days, it's palm dial.
Today?
Yeah, it is a palm dial. Yeah, I think it makes sense for me as a Rolex. It's boring and conventional, but on the inside is anything but boring and not taking itself too seriously. What about you guys? What do you have on?
I'm doing a trusty Cellini again today.
Oh, very nice.
Kind of just one of my favorites, so why not change it?
Very Emily.
I know.
I love it.
Thanks, guys. What are you wearing, Justin?
Very Justin. I'm doing no date sub.
Okay.
Yep. Classic ceramic bezel news.
We know from our earlier watch.
124 or 114. It looks like the wider bracelet. Current production?
Yeah, current production.
I was going to say, we know from our earlier watch talks you are a no date Submariner fan, so.
Love the no date Submariner classic, you know.
The original vision for it, and so good they have refused to make it anything but steel.
There you go. All right, guys, as always, be sure to let us know in the comments, what are you rocking today? Okay, speaking of watches that rock, we have 3 really unique pieces that we've got to talk about. And just a little side note, they are not all Rolex, so be sure to stick around and see what we've got. Ripley, do you want to discuss this first one that we have on the table?
Yeah, so we think Omega. You think Omega flying, you think of the Speedmaster, but the Speedmaster was invented for automotive racing when it was first created in 1957. Landed on the moon in 1969, but what also happened in 1969 was the Omega Flightmaster.
Oh, baby. Yes.
It was Omega's first really purpose-built pilot's watch, arrived, and relative to the Speedmaster, which arrived in 57 and still exists today, pretty much as the exact same watch. Flightmaster came in 69, totally gone by 77. So relatively short production period. This is one of the first ones that was released at 69 and then was only done for a few years. You can tell because right here it's at like a 24-hour indicator rather than a running seconds. And this dial would have originally been black. And so this whole brown gray kind of motif, it's sort of tropicalized, been faded out. Yeah. So it makes it really interesting. But what a bizarre watch. Mm-hmm. It's got this kind of helmet volcano case shape. It's an absolute chunker. But then you start looking at the functionality on it. It's very busy, but let's start working from clockwise and going around. Here, and keep in mind, the pushers have these little inlays that are color coordinated, which is super cool.
Such a
nice
thoughtful
detail.
Yeah, and so you've got your average chrono, start and stop up here, reset down here. This is your winding crown that sets the time. But then you move over to the other side of the case, and as you can see, this blue hand it's a GMT, so you get your additional time zone down here. You can see that being moved as I adjust this. And then this other scale, this internal rotating bezel, is controlled by this crown down here. And it's in, just like you would find on a dive watch, you get an internal rotating scale that lets you, track elapsed time outside of the chronograph. So really highly functional watch, highly funky, so 70s, and no one ever thinks about it. Everyone thinks about the Speedmaster, but when you're talking about quirky, overlooked, fun, colorful Omegas, oh, come on, here you go. And you can even find these in solid gold. They made about 200 in 1971, and oh, what a fun watch.
They're so cool. I love this watch. I love this watch so much. I love the Speedmaster too. Speedmaster's classic. Mm-hmm. This is just fun and great. I mean, it's, it brings me back to being a kid, and you get the watch and it's you judged how good it was by all the cool little toy functions that were on it, right? And that's exactly what we have here. It's there's just more and then more, and I love it. But it's done really well.
I would stop someone to see this on their wrist without question. Whether it's the colors that we see here with this kind of tropical dial, even just the case shape and all of the extra pushers, I would need to know what is going on here.
And it looks enough like a Speedmaster that you see it and you're it looks like a Speedmaster, but that's no Speedmaster. Yeah. And then you kind of learn what it is and you see all the additional.
Great choice. Speaking of undeniable, we have a fun one from Tudor. I won't give too much away, but please tell us about it.
Well, titanium and Pelagos and everything's having a bit of a moment now. And we think of the Pelagos, we think of the Pelagos FXD, we think of the Pelagos 39, which just came out. And I think one of the forgotten gems of the Pelagos lineup is the Pelagos LHD. The left-handed version with this kind of vintage-inspired colored palette, kind of quirky. You know, look how big of news the left-handed GMT was from Rolex. Tudor's had a left-handed model in the catalog for quite a few years, but what makes this one so cool, in addition to the roulette date wheel and the red text and the slightly tinted lume and the left-handed configuration, is when you flip it over, it is numbered. So there aren't that many numbered Tudor watches. I can think of the All Blacks Black Bay Chrono that they did for the rugby team, but mostly it's even like the Marine Nationale, like the FXD, it says MN21, MN22, but it's not actually numbered watch. These are all numbered, which is going to be really interesting once these are gone out of production. How many were there, who's got what number, where they ended up, and all of that. It's going to be an interesting model to see in the future going forward, but right now it's about the same price as a regular Pelagos, and it's still available. You'll find it on Tudor's website, but if you're looking for that Pelagos that is not the expected Pelagos, that might have some collector potential, here you go. But in the meantime, until values catch up, it's a Pelagos. You got 500 meters of water resistance, rotating timing bezel, all the lume in the world, helium escape valve. What more can you ask for?
Exactly.
That is a beautiful watch.
It's a really nice watch. And like you said, it's like a Pelagos, but it's different. I mean, everyone's, what's going to be the hot watch? What's going to be the collector piece? What's going to be the Paul Newman that no one liked back then, and now it's the one that everyone wants? And no one really knows. Everyone can speculate. But for me, I think this has the potential to be like the Pelagos that everyone's looking for in 20 years. It's different enough. I mean, Pelagos is a great, great watch. And this is just different enough to add some extra coolness to it, right? The left-handed, design of it.
The roulette date wheel.
The roulette date wheel.
One of my favorites.
The red, the little touch of red on there. And like you talked about the lume and the tint, and it just has that little vintage vibe to it. Man, it's a great looking watch.
Yeah, this is a really fun one. 2 out of 2 so far, Ripley.
These are all good.
Keep it moving. We've got a Rolex to kind of round out this sort of
and we're moving up at price point. So we had a steel vintage Omega chronograph. We have a modern titanium Tudor dive watch. Both of those are going to be under $5,000 or thereabouts. Very good deal. This is more expensive. It's a solid gold Rolex dress watch. It is a Rolex Cellini Prince, the doctor's watch, in white gold. And these are some of the coolest Rolex watches, in my opinion. It's a series of 4 of the modern versions. There's one in rose gold, one in yellow gold, 2 in white gold, and all of them feature different cases, still rectangles, but slightly different motifs engraved on them, different dials, and the coolest thing about these is that they feature a display case back, manual wind, and the bridges of the movement are finished with the exact same pattern that is on the dial, and that matches with all of them. So all of them have different patterns, all of them have different ones. They all match. They're super cool. One of the first instance of Paraflex shock absorbers being used on a Rolex movement, which is kind of so strange that's in a dress watch. What a cool piece. It doesn't look like a Rolex at all. You're rarely going to see another one of these on someone else's wrist, but at the end of the day, it is a solid gold Rolex. Above reproach, and a fraction of the price of other solid gold Rolex, like a Day-Date or something like that. If you're going to buy a gold Rolex, I'd have a hard time coming up with a better value for the money than something from the Cellini collection. And this feels so staunchly different than any other Rolex that it doesn't feel like you're getting anything that would have overlap with any other Rolex outside of maybe one of the other 3 watches.
I love this collection. This one may just be my favorite out of all of them, but I really like this. This has been one that's been high on my list for a solid 10 years. I think it's such a cool watch. Part of that, I think, is because it is so different, right? Like, we see a square case Rolex. I mean, we do not see that very often, right? You see in some older stuff. And, then we talk about, there's no display backs. Rolex doesn't do the sapphire case back. Asterisk, except this one, which is amazing, by the way. Like, they do such a good job, showing off the detail in the movement and matching it. And there's so much thought that goes into it. I love that. To me, those things kind of make it a little bit special, right? Like, it's just really, really thoughtful and well done.
I agree. It's no secret I love a Cellini, especially being introduced to sort of the 4 variety available here. I definitely gravitate a little bit more towards that yellow gold and the Ever Rose versions, but I love the uniqueness of each watch, especially carrying through that motif to the case back. How can you not enjoy this? And you kind of hit the nail on the head, Justin, especially from a Rolex sort of characteristic where they really don't provide that case back display. This really stands out from that alone, let alone the shape and the other details within it. So this is an absolute standout piece to me. You got to walk out of here with one. Price is not the issue. It's really personal preference. Which one are you taking?
This one's tough for me. This is, I want all of this.
True.
This is, I mean, this
would
is,
be a great,
this is
like,
a Justin
watch collection,
Yes,
right?
I mean,
Watch collection.
Wow.
we sat down before we started filming. Ripley was talking about what a great
True.
collection these 3 watches would be at a pretty good price, right?
Yeah.
You know, 3 luxury
More
watches,
realistic than
and we're
some of the
not
other
breaking
stuff
the
we
bank, like you said, for
showcased.
less than a stainless. So it's a tough one, man. I love all of these watches, but if I am
close
having
your
to
eyes and
take just
point.
one, I know I could, spin the wheel and just pick any of them. I'm gonna pick the Cellini, and I know I usually don't go towards the dress watch, but I love it. It's so different. I've liked it for a long time. I've thought it was overlooked, and I'll go with the Cellini today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ripley, where are you
How
at
about
on
you
this
guys?
one?
So for me, it's kind of a toss-up, and I mean, could not be more apples and oranges. I'm inclined to say the Cellini. But I mean, the Flightmaster is really cool. This one, I don't know, because the Flightmaster, it is vintage. I might maybe hold out for a slightly different one that just had more wabi-sabi that spoke to me. But like, for me, the hard choice comes down to price point. I think objectively, I think the Cellini would work better in my life. But I mean, the Flightmaster is so cool, and it is a steal compared to the Cellini price point wise. That the Flightmaster is something I would actually consider picking up. Well, the Cellini is slightly aspirational for me at this point. And when you look at how many Flightmasters you could get for the price to the Cellini, if you look in that perspective, it's a bit harder call. I guess I'd have to buy both and sell a kidney. How about you?
I love it. I'm torn on this one. I do really enjoy, I mean, other than the King Midas, I'm not a big fan of sort of that left sort of crown configuration. It's a little trickier for me to kind of work with unless I take it off. So the Pelagos maybe doesn't get my nod today, but I still love this watch. It's no secret I'm a Cellini fan. Have been since day one. This exact configuration is not my favorite, but I do love the rarity from a Rolex standpoint. That case back will make me happy every single time I see it. I have been blown over by this Flightmaster. I love just the attention to detail in every component, but also just the conversation that you get to have about this anytime someone sees it and asks you about it.
Never gonna make this watch again.
Right. Clearly, it's very set sort of in its time frame. So as much as I want to choose the Cellini because I always do already, I think I'm gonna go with the Flightmaster today.
Okay.
Isn't that kind of crazy?
That's very unexpected.
I know. And
I think you should wear the Flightmaster. Like, forget your gold watches. Like, Emily should just lean in.
Look, you telling me that they make this in all gold, a yellow gold, sold. Find me one and I'm getting it. It'll be a future wrist check right here.
Yeah.
So this, kind of brings me to this point of having to ask, you guys are adding something to your collection. Which one is it? Again, we kind of keep saying from a collectability standpoint, all 3 of these are definitely great options, especially just from the range of watches that are available today. So be sure to sound off in the comments. We want to know where you guys are at in this conversation as well. So fun way to dig in and find some hidden gems together
great
today,
set today.
guys. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. So we'll have to do this a little bit more often, if you will.
I like it.
Well, thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. We really appreciate it, especially your comments. Keep those coming. But until next time, be well.